Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. Let me just get that out of the way, so bear with me just a second while I clear that. No, not what I wanted to do. Okay, now we're all set. I had to clear something out of OBS that it shouldn't have come. The only thing I think that is going to come through on OBS is the scene change, where I tried to clear it out that way, but it turns out I just had to deselect whatever I had selected. Anyway, as you can see by the layout and the title, we are going to jump back into our background playthrough for MAG-23 Guadalcanal from Historic Wings. We are into week 2, and we've already got 2 wins on the day locked up. I'm hoping we can make a bit more headway this week, and I just had my pen notes over here. I'm hoping we'll be able to make a bit more headway on our playthrough against the Japanese. I've got my rosters all set, and new pilots are due in after today, so they'll be operational on the 31st. Roster sheet's already been updated with them, but let's go ahead and jump into this playthrough. So, as you might know, this game by Historic Wings dumps you into the battle in Guadalcanal in the Pacific, and it puts you in control of a squad of basically the Cactus Air Force, which is a ragtag group of pilots flying against the Japanese. Bear with me for one more minute while I go get my phone, put it on Do Not Disturb, and then we'll be all set to go. Alright, we are all set on that front, so now we're ready to jump into this playthrough. First up, we need to determine if we're flying a combat air patrol. I don't usually fly these, and today is going to be no different. We also need to figure out what the weather is going to be, so we'll bring the dice tower in shot while we do some of this setup. And for those of you who may be happening on this for the very first time, we'll walk through this day nice and slow. So first I'm going to be rolling on this weather chart. So let's see what kind of weather we have coming at us. I'll grab a die for that. This will affect our weather mods in a few different places, and we'll walk through how it affects us there. That's a 1, and it is heavy rain. So okay, this is one of the places where it's going to modify, where the weather roll is going to have a roll. So because we rolled heavy rain, anytime we're affected by weather, we now have a -3 weather modifier. And this is one of the places that we're being affected by that on the mission type table. So we'll roll another single D6 to see what kind of mission they think we've got coming at us. 4 minus 3 is 1. They think we've got a land mission coming at us. So I'm going to make some notes here for my land missions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Guadalcanal. South Guadalcanal. East Guadalcanal. West Guadalcanal. And the Marine Scouts. And the way I roll for these, so I'll show off the table real quick. So we'd use this table if we were rolling for air and sea, but we'll be using this table when we're rolling on land missions. Morning, Jester. We're just going into our background playthrough of MAG-23 Guadalcanal. What am I doing up so early? I usually wake up at 5 a.m. It's kind of helpful to keep me in the routine. And I've already gotten a workout in this morning, too. So, yeah. The way I usually roll for these is I've got all 5 D6s. For those of you who might not have happened on one of these videos, I've got all 5 D6s in here. Might be a little bit hard to see because that's blue on green. but I'm going to have all 5 D6s. I'm going to roll all 5 at once, and then I'll read them I'll read them from closest to furthest. So the closest D6 will be for North Guadalcanal, and then working my way back eventually to the Marine Scouts. So let's see what happens here. Okay, so the closest die is for North Guadalcanal. A 6 is giving me a heads up on +1 on the Matanicao River. I probably just butchered the pronunciation. Thomas will probably yell at me on my terrible pronunciation of that. And then when we've got a couple dice actually the 4 will be for South Guadalcanal since that's next closest. 4 is enough to get us +2 Gold Ridge. Then the next die back is a 2. East Guadalcanal isn't giving us anything. Then West Guadalcanal, a 4, is giving us +1 on Tangarari. Marine Scouts is a 5. That's giving us +1 Lunga Point. Okay, so I kind of forgot to move the phase marker over to Coast Watcher and Marine Scout reports, slightly hidden by the dice tower. We skipped past the radar plots because we don't have the radar up yet. We won't get that until September 3rd from the looks of it. So next we have the reported Japanese force. So we'll be rolling on... So with the land mission, we'll be rolling on this table for Phase 5 land mission. We only need 1d6 for that. I'm hoping I don't see that do or die mission, because on a do or die mission, we would lose for the day if we don't fly it. Let me just double check, but I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So bear with me while I look at that. But that's the only thing that really makes sense to me. Let's see if there's something in here about takeoffs. Determine a reported force. A special mission is called for, yada, yada, yada. Alright, so I only need the 1 die, but that's still not telling me what I want to know about the do or die requirement. Ah, here we are. Do or die requirement. Use when you schedule a combat air patrol and or assigned aircraft, and the final Japanese force was titled as do or die. If you did not schedule and did not assign any aircraft, combat ends, you lose the land mission because the targets were not engaged. Okay. So we do want to see something that's going to be something above a 1, because I don't want that do or die requirement hanging over our heads. I already had a die in there, I only need the 1. That's a 3 as I'll pull that through. So we've got a critical target. I believe there was nothing special there. So we got 4 infantry. 4 infantry, 2 trucks, and 2 anti-air. Let me just make sure there's nothing crazy with critical target. As long as there's, well, even if there is, I'm almost certain that I'm not flying this, especially not in heavy rain. Here we go. Critical target. Okay. Alright, so now we've decided if we're assigning pilots and aircraft, except, as mentioned under heavy rain, those land targets can play tiddlywinks for all I care. Henderson The Japanese are a tough enough enemy as it is, and Henderson Field is, at best, a spotty ally. I would rather not add Mother Nature to my list of enemies today, thank you very much. So, since we're not flying that, we actually skip all the way through flight ops, and we go straight to the end of mission assessment to see if we've got another mission charged. So that means we're rolling on this additional mission table. Which, once again, we need a single D6 for that, and I wouldn't mind. I guess here's a time where I wouldn't mind seeing another mission. Except the Pacific says we're going to get a nice quiet day. So that brings us. This is going to be a very short video, so that'll bring us straight into disease and infections. So now we're into end of day detail. So we will be rolling on these tables in order. So we're rolling on phase 12 first, then we're going to work our way through all of this. So first we've got disease and infections. Hopefully we get a high roll on this table. That's a 2, so of course we've got Dunga fever. That is a big problem. We have to roll for pilots that are affected by that. 1d3. So the way we'll roll for that is we'll take our single d6 and roll it and divide it by 2. Welcome in, Magnus. You're happening on a very short video for August. Well, it's not going to be necessarily a short video. You're happening on a short mission for August 30th. We may go through another mission here. I haven't completely decided yet, though. As far as our Dunga fever, we've got, 3 pilots affected by that. So we have to decide who is going to be affected. And they'll be out for, yikes, 1d6 plus 8 days? Gross. Okay, so the way we're going to roll for that is we're going to roll... let me think how I want to do this, because this is... I've been meaning to come up with a solution for random pilot selection, but I haven't come up with anything yet. So I think the way we're going to do this is we're going to roll... I think if we roll a d6 for the type of plane, and then I'll grab a d20, and avoiding any rerolls, I think we'll do it that way. So bear in mind, bear with me, opening closet door. Rummaging in dice tray. Closing closet door. Okay, that's the way we're going to do this. So just making some notes here. 1 to 2, F4F. 3, 4, SBD. 5 to 6. What's the other type of craft? P400. Okay. So blue is type. B20 equals pilot. And I'm going to throw an orange die in there for the base duration. So there's the dice we'll be rolling for this. Blue will be for the type of craft affected. The D20 is pilot selection, and the orange die is the base duration. Because with Dunga fever, and I probably just pronouncing that wrong, we're unable to fly. So the affected pilot will be out for 1d6 plus, the affected pilots, I should say, will be out for 1d6 plus 8 days. Okay, so the 4 was going to be an SBD pilot. The 17 is going to need to be re-rolled, but the first pilot will be out for 9 days. So it's going to be a, what did we say? Right, SBD will be out for 9 days. And the D20 will need to get re-rolled. That's a 20, still needs to be re-rolled. 12. Okay, lightning will be out for... So lightning's out for 9 days. And that's on the 30th. So DF, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, next pilot. We have another, looks like we have another Dauntless pilot. And pilot number 6 is Matthew. He's out for 13 days, so he's gonna miss 2 weeks of action. Yikes. His case is pretty bad. So DF 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Alright, and for our last pilot, yikes, okay, that's bad. Well, that might not be too bad. So we're losing a Wildcat pilot this time. Where did I put the... Oh, I'm holding it. Duh. Okay, so we're losing a Wildcat pilot. 14 is going to be Black. He'll be out for 9 days as well. Okay, so Black on the 30th comes down with the case of dengue fever. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that's all 3 of them affected. Now we see if Pistol Pete Artillery is able to do anything. I'm making notes in my logbook off shot that I'll eventually be using to type up the after action report. In case D20 does not need to be in there. Okay, that's a 1, so Pistol Pete Artillery will inflict 2 hits. So now we're rolling on... this hit resolution table. So we're going to roll 2 hits for that. I'll throw in a D6 as well in case we get a fuel hit. That way I can assign how much, that way I can figure out how much fuel is destroyed. Actually, there's a couple of hits that I might need the D6 for. 6 is not one of them, thankfully. So just as a reminder, we're rolling blue for the hit table and orange in case the X-ray result calls for it, but the 6 does not call for that because a 6 is insignificant damage. And a 4 is a runway hit, so we have a -1 modifier for takeoffs and landings until the end of our next game day. -1 runway. So takeoffs and landing. End of next game day. So that'll be August 31st. Next we have, so Pistol Pete, Washing Machine Charlie. Once again, we're on this table. Anything but a 1 will work. Cap. All right, that's a 6, so no hits. So no hits from Washing Machine Charlie. Next, we're going on Night Infiltration. So now we're here. Again, the tower's kind of hiding my tracking on the operations phases. 5 is going to be 2 hits. Actually, 5 is no infiltration attempt. And now we're on Louis the Louse and naval bombardment. Which is this table I'm rolling on, so phase 16 now. I would like to see a 6, but I know that's a pipe dream, the way I roll. Five is going to be another 2 hits. So once again, we'll roll for those in the same way that I rolled for the earlier hits. Once again, I've got the blue die in there for the type of hit, the orange die in case the extra result calls for it. Which a 6 does not call for that. That'll be insignificant damage. And our last hit there. Four is another runway hit, so we got a -2. So we've got another -1 runway. And those do stack, so those will count as -2. So Louis the Louse naval bombardment, random events, and end of day. So the way I'm going to roll for the random event, I'll show the table I'm rolling on here for just a second. So now I'm rolling on this random events table. The way I'm going to roll this is I'm going to grab, I've got my blue and my orange die. I'm going to grab another orange die. If the blue result is a 1 or a 2, then the orange dice will tell me which event I have. If the blue dice is a 3 and up, then I'll ignore the orange dice. So that's the way I'm going to roll that. A 3 says we're going to have no event. All right, and that will just about do it for the day, but first we do have a pilot out. Reptile is still missing in action. So for that, we'll be rolling on, which table is it? Oh, here we go. End of day pilot status. So we're rolling on this table now to see what happens with Reptile. So we'll grab the lone blue D6 for that. That's a 1, uh-oh. Reptile has been killed in action. Alright, so that will do it for August 30th. I'm going to go on intermission, but I will be around to interact with chat while I type up the after action report. So, we'll switch this over to stream will be right back. And I'm going to go ahead and type up the after action report. So, bear with me as I clack, as the keyboard starts clacking on me. So we're going to rate this from Phoenix's perspective. Not to worry, Jester, we will be coming back to that detail during the after-action report. Okay, sorry for the delay. You guys probably heard the keyboard clacking there, but the after-action report for the 30th is ready, so let's take it away. We'll be reading this from the CEO of the CEO of the Cactus Air Force, Phoenix's perspective. I woke to the sound of heavy rain over my head on the barracks. Predictably, Sparky being my wireless guy, for those of you who are uninitiated, Sparky was already waiting for me with a report of a land mission. The intel was good, with North, South, and West Guadalcanal all giving good reports of a critical target with 4 infantry, 2 trucks, and some anti-aircraft artillery waiting for us. I looked at Sparky, then cast my eyes up to the ceiling where I'd heard the rain earlier. Sparky took a second to listen to the rain, then immediately tore the report up. He knew when the weather got like this, I had a tendency to go selectively deaf on reports. The Japanese were tough enough adversaries, and Henderson Field was a spotty ally at best. I didn't feel like adding Mother Nature to my list of enemies, so we didn't fly against that target. The rain continued all day as Sparky never came back with another report. We managed to finish getting the barracks ready for our new pilots that were due in, but some of our pilots ended up getting sick. Lightning, Matthew, and Black all got sick with dengue fever. Lightning and Black were out for 9 days apiece, but Matthew's case ended up being worse, and he'll be out, or are going to be out, I should say. So Lightning and Black are out for 9 days apiece, but Matthew's case looks to be worse. Doc thinks he'll be out for just short of 2 weeks. The Japanese were active overnight, with pistol-Pete artillery landing a pair of hits. One was insignificant, but the other left a crater on the runway, which would make takeoffs and landings harder. Washing Machine Charlie and night infiltration thankfully weren't problems, but the Imperial Japanese Navy also scored a pair of hits. The first hit was insignificant again, but the runway also took another hit. One of the insignificant hits, though, brought a crate with it. Inside was Reptile's body. Clearly, Reptile had been treated miserably and tortured. It affected all of us as we'd fought with him since the beginning. Another quiet day, but a stalemate on the day. So unfortunately, we do suffer a loss, as Reptile has been killed in action and probably tortured in a Japanese prisoner of war camp somewhere. Can't say as I'm completely surprised, though. Now, I don't want to end on a sour note like that, and that ended up being a short video with the rain causing us problems. So I think we're going to go ahead and fly another mission here this morning. So we're going to jump into August 31st, 1942, and I just put down 24, thinking it was 2024, but no, we're in 1942. So, Combat Air Patrol, weather, mission type, and Coast Watcher reports. Just making my first few headlines. For my logbook. Let's see if we can get something that's not rain, because I'd like to give you guys an actual mission rather than just kind of setting some story up. 31:42. Okay, so first things first. Actually, I've got to do a little bit of setup here because we didn't change anything out. So we've got 56 Wildcats, 41 Dauntless, still 19 Airacobras, and 172 barrels of fuel. So today I need to bear in mind that the runway took a couple of massive craters last night, so I will need to be very careful about flying that. We're not doing a combat air patrol as usual. First up, we need to see the weather chart. I'm not going to show the tables again because I already went through. Because I've showed these a little bit more slowly in the first mission. So the weather chart is going to give us a 4 is going to give us mud and dust, but at least it's a 0. Well, it's a 0 modifier, but we have to remember that we've also got a -2 on the runway modifier. So it might be, this might end up being a day to let the pilots rest as well, but let's see what they think we've got coming at us. And that will be our next order of business as we roll for the mission type. With no modifier, so it's a straight roll. Let's see, a 5, they think we've got an air mission coming at us. Oh boy. Oop. Alright, so this time I will show off the table I will show off the different table once I get the notes all set up. Bougainville, New Georgia, Santa Isabel, Savo Island, and West Guadalcanal. So now we're rolling on this table for the Coast Watcher and Marine Scouts. And I'm going to roll it the same way I rolled for the land reports earlier. So once again, I've got my 5d6 that are going in the cup, and we'll read them as closest being Bougainville all the way to furthest back for West Guadalcanal. So we're actually up here now. Okay, so the closest die is going to be 4. Bougainville will give us a report. New Georgia's not telling us anything. Santa Isabel is not telling us anything either. Savo Island on a 1 is not telling us anything either. And West Guadalcanal at 5 is giving us +1 on Tangarari. Okay, so once again we skip through the radar plots, and we have to determine the reported Japanese force. Alright, so now we're rolling on this table. Once again, a straight. Actually, it's just a straight roll because we're still at uncertain balance. So we'll get those dice out. Alright, so the intel thinks we've got 12 G4M Bettys and 96 A6M Zeros coming at us. Okay, so now we've got a little bit of a problem on our hands because the weather didn't give us any help on the weather modifier. If it was clear, I probably wouldn't hesitate to fly because it would be a straight roll, but we're a -2 on the runway because we're a -2 on the runway because we took a couple of hits from the artillery last night. So, just making a note here. If I fly this, I would want Wildcats going up into a dogfight. There's also the question of, do I trust well, there are two other problems that I have to consider here. One is, do I trust the intel? And 2 is, do I leave Henderson Field undefended? Because leaving Henderson Field undefended seems like an absolutely terrible idea. Let me see if I can find, here's the air mission. So we'll get the air map ready. I'm not going to populate it with the... Actually, let me see if I can move, I should be able to move the tower over here to get the map. Okay. Looks like we've got that there. So there are a few problems I'm facing here. One, the runway got cratered last night, so we're a -2 modifier. The weather didn't give us any help with that, And I do not like the idea at all of leaving Henderson Field naked under the sky. I can also get the air combat operations ready. Plus, I'm not sure if I completely trust the intel that's coming in. Because the problem is if we're wrong and we get swarmed... Because a plus two intel mod is not a lot to reliably try to fly on, and I'm not sure. Between the weather modifier, and I'm rambling on this, but it's going to a place where I'm very hesitant about flying this, but I think given how little I like the idea of having Henderson Field undefended, I think we are going to have to send at least a couple elements up. I want to see if I can do some damage to those bombers. So, and we're a -2 on that, and I primarily want Wildcats. The question is, the new guys are operational today, so, now I have to figure out if I want to send. I got to figure out who I want to send up, if anybody. Because if the intel is wrong, there's a very real chance that we're just going to get swarmed here. But if it's right, the numbers are not in our favor at all either. I think we're going to split the difference, and I'm going to send 4 elements of Wildcats up. It's probably a bad idea, but as I've mentioned multiple times, I do not like the idea at all of leaving Henderson Field undefended. So I want to see if we can meet this. With that in mind, I'm not sending Shadow up on what has a very real potential to be a very dangerous mission. I'm actually going to send Ruff up with... We'll send Ruff up with Nightmare on his wing. I'll go up myself as well as being Phoenix. And I'll take Hell on my wing. That could have sounded bad. And then I'll send some of the new guys up in the Wildcats. We'll send the VMF 224 up as well. We'll send a couple of elements from there. We'll go Flight Leader Westing. And I'll give him Baker on wing. And we'll go CO Chase with Knox on his wing. Like I said, I don't completely like the idea of flying this, but I like the idea of leaving Henderson Field defended even less. So now we're going to set up for takeoffs. So we're down here on takeoffs on the flight chart. So we're going to go Ruff, Nightmare, Phoenix, Hell, Westing, Baker, Chase, and Knox. So let me make a note on my notes on squadron sheets of who's all going up. So Phoenix is going up on air, as is Ruff. Nightmare and Hell. Let's see, Westing, Baker, Chase, and Knox. Alright, so takeoffs are all set. So for takeoffs, I'm going to be rolling... So now we're into takeoffs. So now we're rolling on this table down here for takeoffs and landings. I am going to be rolling at close interception because I want to be able to get some shots off at the bombers, and we may potentially end up noping out. So we're going for a close range interception, which is going to cost us 8 barrels of fuel. All right, so now we're rolling for takeoffs, and the way we're going to do that is we've got 2d6, but we're at a -2 modifier. So once we get the modified roll in, we want to see a 7+ for these to be clean takeoffs. First up, we've got rough. That's a 5 - 2 is 3. Rough's going to have a lot of problems. Uh-oh. So that's a 3. Crash. AC damaged. This could be bad. So now we're rolling for... So this is the roll we've got. Now we're going to roll a single d6. 1, rough is killed in action. 2, he suffers a serious wound and is transferred out. 3 to 6 is a light wound. So we want to see... So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to roll my usual different colored d6. The blue die will be for the injury. And if this is a 3 or up, then the orange die is for how long he's out for. If it's a 1 or a 2, then if the blue die is a 1 or a 2, then we won't need the orange die. That's a 4, so rough takes a light wound. He's out for 2 days. That could have been a lot worse. I will guarantee you that. As I've mentioned multiple times, I was very hesitant about I was hesitant about flying this at all. So let's see if Nightmare gets off the ground. I need the, well, we'll go with that. So 11 - 2 is 9. Nightmare's off the ground. So no, so good takeoff. We'll see if Phoenix gets off the ground as well, and I'm actually going to roll the right dice for that. So we do need at least one element of Wildcats. So Phoenix's takeoff. 11 - 2 is 9. Phoenix is also off the ground. We may end up forming that up as the... Well, let's see who all comes up before we determine what elements we're forming up. So Hell up next. (10 - 2 is 8. Hell is off the ground. Next up, we've got Westing. Which means I need another element of Wildcats before we go too much further. That's a, uh-oh, this could be bad. 4 - 2 is 2. Westing is going to crash. AC destroyed. This was the risk I was taking with Henderson Field. So now we're on 2 or less. By the way, for Nightmare, Phoenix, and Hell, because they got a result of 7+, they had no crash, no injury. But we're looking at Westing right now. So crash, which means we will lose a Wildcat on the day. So -1 Wildcat. But now we have to roll to see if what happens to Westing. So coming back to this table, a 1 or a 2, he's killed in action. 3 is a serious wound. 4 to 6 is a light wound. So I'm going to roll that. And this is his first day out in Guadalcanal. So once again, I'm going to roll the blue die for the injury result. This in case the orange die in case the blue die is a 4 and up. 4 and up would be a light wound. Alright, that's a 5, so that's a light wound. He's out for 2 days. Again, that could have been very catastrophic. So Westing crashes out. I kind of knew there was a decent chance there was something like this was going to happen. Alright, so next up we've got Baker to see if we get a good takeoff with Baker. (5 - 2 is 3. That'll be another crash. Aircraft damaged. And once again, we're rolling for injury and type of wound. So 3, okay. Also, Baker's first day. Excuse me. Once again, uh-oh. So the blue die was a 1, which means Baker on his first day is killed in action. Where are you? Here you are. So that's a first day casualty with Baker biting it. Then we've got Chase. As dice go flying on me this morning, let's put the right dice in there, Phoenix. That's a 5 minus 2 is 3. So we're rolling for that again. I'll get a hit marker out for this. So the hit marker is going to go on my task bar track, on my task sheet tracker. I've already suggested to Thomas that he throw in a task box marker with the expansion to this game that's coming out, that's supposed to be out later this year, and he's implementing that suggestion. So we'll roll for the wound on Chase, who is the CO of the new squadron, the new squadron of Wildcats due in. Oop. Let's get the right dice in there again. So once again, we're looking at a 1 KIA, 2 serious wound, 3 to 6 light wound. Alright, that's a 6, so that's a light wound, but he's going to be out for 6 days. So, light wound, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Taking a quick drink of my Crystal Light. And our last takeoff is Knox. Eight minus 2 is 6. He'll skid off but join up later. So skid off, misses first task box. Alright, so new elements. So new elements, we're going to end up with CO Phoenix with Nightmare on Wing. And we're going to end up with Hell on, with Lieutenant Hell, with Knox on Wing in box 2. But I don't know if we're going to be still up for box 2. A lot of that's going to turn on what happens as we get into our first task box. So as we're rolling for interception, not rolling for interception, well, before we get into our close range interception, we need to see if the force is accurate, but I also need to pull out, there's a chit in here for a CO. I know there is, because I used it last time I put this game on the channel. EXO. Put this off to the side. I know damn well there's a chit for CO in here because I used it in the last video, unless it ended up in with the Japanese. No. Didn't end up there. Well, I'm not going to look for it right now. What I'll do is I'll just use the EXO mark, but I'll remember that it's actually a that it's actually my CO up there. Let me see just for grins if it ended up in... There are a couple of other places it could have ended up, just for grins. I'm going to check in here. It didn't. Just looking over that one more time, but no. How about in with my elements, with my planes? Yes, it did. Found it. It was in. It ended up in with the actual planes. Probably because when I was scooping everything up, I just scooped quickly and didn't bother to organize it. Well, you're in time. Hey, good afternoon. Well, it's morning out here, Thomas, but thanks for stopping by. And yep, I am playing. We're actually on the second mission of the video because the first video ended up being very short. But if you watch the after action report later, you'll find out that we actually ended up taking a casualty on yesterday's video, on yesterday's mission of August 30th, as one of the hits from the Imperial Japanese Navy sent us a crate with Reptile's body inside of it, affecting our pilots a little bit, but not too bad. Anywho, where were we? Oh yes, we just formed up our new aircraft. So now we're about to see what the final status of the Japanese force is. I will also mention, and Jester and Magnus can both weigh in on this as well, with some of the stuff I had coming in with getting a couple of cratered hits, I was very hesitant about flying this mission. Between getting a couple of hits and having intel I'm not sure I can completely trust because I'm only with a +2 weather modifier. So now we're rolling 2d6 on the Phase 8 sighting table with the +2 modifier. So I want to see an 11 or up. But again, not a lot of good reports on this one. So I'm running a very real risk of getting my pilots swarmed. (10 + 2 is 12, so somehow it's actually an accurate report, which means we might be getting swarmed anyway. Okay, so our report was... Well, there'll be more coming in today's after-action report as well. So our reported force was 12 Bettys and 9 Zeros. Fortunately, we've got pairs of Bettys. The Zeros aren't coming at us until later, and I suspect after we take a shot at the Bettys, I'm probably going to nope out, because I don't like having 3 pilots against that many. And so correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, but if I engage the bombers first, and then immediately nope out because I don't feel like having the Zeros join the party, would they still go on to bomb? Would they still go on to work over Henderson Field a little bit? Because that's the main reason I ended up flying this mission, even though I really did not want to fly this one at all. I just didn't want to leave Henderson Field naked under the bombers coming over. Fortunately, at least the fighters won't strafe. So there is that to work with. Anyway, while I'm waiting for confirmation on that, I will get set for our first round of dogfighting, which I believe the bombers will participate in. So we've got Wildcats versus Zeros. Not Zeros, I'm an idiot. Versus the Bettys. The Zeros won't be joining the party until later. Right. Actually, do they... Let me just double check, but I don't know if the Bettys actually do dogfight. Looks like the Bettys actually don't dogfight, which could be good for us. So we're basically getting a free shot at the Bettys here. I'm going to set up for dice in case I need to assign credit for any of these. So that's coming in later. We will be rolling let's see, we've got the CO, so that's another plus 2d6. So we'll be rolling 4d6, essentially a free shot against the Bettys. And we want to see a 5 and up. We defend on a 3, but they're not going to be... actually, we do roll defense dice. Right. So we'll be having 66 against for the Bettys against our 4d6, because we've got our CO up, which gives us plus 2d6 and 2 elements, so a total of 4 dice for the Americans. And the Bettys will defend... What did I do with the lid for my dice cup? Oh, I was holding it and now I dropped it. Delightful. Hope you guys are enjoying the show, by the way, of watching me putz around with setting everything up here. So let's see what happens here. Okay, pulling our dice through. So we get so the Americans, so we roll a 2, a 3, and 2 4s. So a 2, 3, 4, 4, which amounts to 2 defends. And the Bettys roll a 1, actually 2 1s, a 2, 2 4s, and a 5. So that'll amount to 3 defends. Fortunately, no damage, well, unfortunately, I should say, no damage done on either side. So 1, 1, 2, 4, 4, 5. So 3 defends, which means nothing happened there. And now we've got the zeros coming in to join the party. So now the question comes in, and now that we've got the zeros all joining the party, now might be a point where I'm looking to nope out of here, just because now the numbers are coming at us. So I think this is where the question comes in of, if I decide to nope out, will the Bettys still bomb Henderson Field, or am I going to have to probably sacrifice these guys to keep them away from Henderson Field? Because once I finish getting these bombers, once I finish getting the zeros into the party, we're going to have a big problem on our hands. That's kind of what I'm wanting to break off, but I want to make sure that they're not going to go after Henderson Field before I do. Plus, we're already facing... Okay, that's what I was afraid of, that they are still going to go after Henderson. So, yeah, I think... I knew the zeros didn't strafe because I didn't see that in the box, but yeah, I think we are going to take a U-turn and break off. But the Bettys will get a shot at Henderson Field. Bettys bomb. So this is their roll coming up. So the Bettys need 4s to inflict any hits on Henderson Field, which I believe would also cause runway problems. So we'll get the 66 for that, and then we'll turn our attention to landings once we get that done. So we've got our 66 in the cup. Well, they hit on a 4, so they hit on a 4 plus. So we want to see low rolls. Actually, I believe they roll on a -1, it looks like. So 5 minus 1, so we roll a 1, a 2, 3 3s. So 1, 2, 3 3s, and a 5, so they will inflict 1 hit. So 1, oh right, we're on the hit resolution table. Silly me. So 1 hit. Alright, which we have to roll for the hit on there. Oh, Henderson anti-air, right. So 3d6. I was so worried about the havoc that the bombers were getting ready to cause and not leaving Henderson undefended that, hey, Henderson apparently can defend itself. 3d6, but Henderson only hits on a 6. Which they do get a hit there, but that's not going to count for any victory points. Which is rather unfortunate, but nature of the beast. Up 2, 3, 6. And it's not going to matter since combat's going to be over after this. But we need to roll for the hit, so I'm going to get the rest of these out. Actually, I'm going to leave one of each of those in. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I'm going to roll the blue d6 on the actual hit table, and then if the result calls for an extra result, then the red and black die will be for that. Excuse me. Let's see, a 2 is bivouac. So we've got another result in here. So we'll roll for, so we've got a bivouac hit, and a 1 for a D3 result is going to be 1 pilot. So bivouac, 1 pilot. Okay, so the way we're going to roll for this is we're going to add the D20. I'll explain what I'm actually... I think a better idea at this point, let me just count this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, better idea. Here's how we're going to do this instead. So we're going to actually roll 3d6. We'll roll the blue die for the squadron. One will be the VMF 223 to 6 being the VB6 VB5 squadron. Actually, I do need the D20 because I need pilot selection. Then the D20 will be the pilot that's being affected. In that squadron, and the red die is for the result on the bivouac. 1 to 2 is a serious wound. 3 to 6 is a light wound. So that's how we're going to do that. Okay, so the squadron being affected is... So squadron being affected is the VMSB 232. It's a squadron of Dauntless. Pilot 12 is Forrest, and 3, he's going to take a light wound. So he was already out from... What was he out from? Was that dysentery he was out from? August 23rd. Actually, he would have been able to fly, it looks like. Not that we had anything flying there. So we'll add the orange D6 to determine how long he's out for. He's out for 3 days. With some of the results I've been getting in this second day, that also could have been a lot worse. Now we move into landings, and once again, since Henderson Field decided to live up to its spotty ally reputation, that's the word I want, we're still at a -2 modifier. That's another reason I was so hesitant to fly this mission. Now, you know I'm rambling on that. Nightmare, Hell, Nox. Okay, so now we'll get the proper colored dice in here. Back to the 2 blue D6. So now we're back. So for those of you who are new, I realize that's not you, Thomas, but for anybody who is new and happening on this, we're back to the takeoffs and landings chart. Same results as earlier, once again with a -2 modifier. Phoenix is up first. Uh-oh. 3 minus 2 is 1. This could be a huge problem. So 1, we're going to lose another Wildcat. And then once again, we're going to roll for... Alright, so blue is going to be the type of wound, orange is for the duration. And we're looking at... So we're looking at this result. This is my CO coming out. This could be very, very bad. Let's see, a 2. Well, it looks like I'm going to be giving this AAR from Beyond the Grave. Because Phoenix just crashed, aircraft destroyed, and killed in action. So I'm going to have to be writing this from somebody else's perspective. Then for Nightmare, an 8 minus 2 is 6, which will probably just... I think if you're getting the skid result, that would just be considered a skid. I would probably just add that as a skid in there, but still a good landing, I think. Thomas, you can probably correct me on that. But that's what I'm going to go with. He skids a little bit, but it's otherwise a good landing. As for Hell, probably skidding, trying to avoid Phoenix's wreckage. Ten minus 2 is 8. Hell is on the ground. And then for Nox, okay, good to know. For Nox, 9 minus 2 is 7, barely, but Nox is on the ground as well. Okay, we have an end of mission assessment. I'm hoping we don't get another mission thrown at us. Before I roll for the next mission, let me make note on the, let me make some notes here. So Phoenix, KIA. I think we forgot to note Forrest's light wound. I knew there were, well, the thing is, I knew there were risks with ordering the pilots up. This was a tough choice all around, but something like this happens. It happens on occasion. Which probably means Ruff is going to end up being the CO, but it'll be too dearly bought. Actually, Ruff could be a good perspective to write this after-action report from. But let's see if we've got a new mission. Five says no, we don't have a new mission, so that's a relief. Alright, so now we move back to disease and infections, which also caused us problems on yesterday's mission. So we're back on the Phase 12 table, hopefully for a high roll this time. That's a 3, which is just high enough, so no disease and infections. Next we have Pistol Pete coming over. Four is also nothing happening. Then we have Washing Machine Charlie. Which is no hits. Bombing Henderson, but nothing, no damage done in this one. Night Infiltration. A 6 says no attempt. And for naval bombardment, we're hoping for a 6, but I'm not betting on it. Not the way I've been rolling. That's a 5, so another 2 hits. We'll throw it. Okay, so we'll use the orange die once again for how I usually roll these hits. 3 is aircraft, and we'll say another. We'll say it was 1 to 2 for Wildcats. My usual aircraft roll is 1 to 2 for Wildcats, 3 to 4 for Dauntless, 5 to 6 for Airacobra. So that's another Wildcat that's going to be destroyed. Fairly certain the Japanese are winning on the day, but unfortunately that happens. And rolling for the other hit. Two is Bivouac again, and we've got, I believe you round down with the, on an odd number like that. Actually, yeah, I'm going to round down, so we're going to call that one pilot on a Bivouac. So let's see who's affected by this. And we'll do the same thing that we did before. So D6 for the squadron affected, D20 for pilot selection, and then a D, and then orange. So blue for the squadron, red for the D20 for the pilot selection, yellow, orange for the type of wound, and I'll throw in a red die as well in case the red die is a light wound, so we know how long they're out. All right, so that's coming out of the VMF 223. Pilot 1 is going to need to be re-rolled because that was Phoenix. The 3 is going to be a light wound, so whoever's actually... No, the 4 is a light wound. Orange is out 3 days, so we need to know who's affected by the light wound. That's Pilot 7, which is Reptile. He's KIA. 19, Sting is also captured. 4 is Fong. So Fong is going to take a light wound out for 3 days. All right. So that's probably going to. So he would have been able to fly tomorrow. So we're going to give him 3 days on that. Okay, so we're on. So we just resolved naval bombardment. Yes. Now we roll for random event. Fortunately, we don't have to worry about MIA this time because Reptile's body just came back yesterday. As usual, I'm going to throw in... Actually, we're going to roll this a little bit differently since I happen to have the dice over here. We'll use the orange die for the... Actually, yeah, we need the orange die for the event, and then the blue dice, in case the orange die is a 1 or a 2, will tell us what the event actually is. Six says no random event. Let's see, tallying up victory points, we ended up having... So we ended up getting the Westing crashed and took a light wound somehow. I have no idea why messages aren't coming through, Thomas. A lot of what I'm seeing, I do see quite a few of what you're putting in. I don't think I have subscriber-only chat enabled here. 4 VP bomb per hit. There was only the 1 hit. Yikes. Okay, so 1 hit, which was 4 points. So that's going to be 7. So we have 0 US VP versus 7 Japanese VP. So that's definitely a loss on the day. Yeah. Alright, so we're losing 8 barrels of fuel, which means we'll end the day at 164. That's what we'll start September 1st with tomorrow. That's the Betty counter right for ease of remembering. Okay. Right. So, once again, I'm going to go to brief intermission while I type up the after action report. I will be around. I will be able to interact with chat once again, but I am going to work on this after action report. Oh, no. Sorry for the delay. You can probably hear the keyboard clacking. I'm trying to get this done. Okay. My apologies for the delay on that. I was finishing up the after action report. We scroll this up to the top and we will go through this one. Ow, because my knees hurt again. Okay. So here's the after action report. August 31st, 1942, starting from Phoenix's perspective. I started coughing almost immediately with all of the mud and dust coming in, but the runway was a cratered mess this morning. Sparky came up to me as I was on the runway with the report of an air mission. I was not happy with that report, but I couldn't leave Henderson Field undefended. The intel wasn't very good either, with only Bougainville and West Guadalcanal giving me any intel, which didn't help my apprehension in flying this mission. Everyone rushed into the pagoda this morning. I followed along, contemplating ignoring the report, but that would have been a terrible idea to leave Henderson undefended. As such, I decided to send up just a few elements. I went up myself with Hell assigned on my wing, my XO Ruff went up with Nightmare on his wing, and from our new squadron, Flight Leader Westing went up with Baker on his wing, and CO Chase went up with Knox on his wing. Takeoffs were very rough. No surprise with Henderson Field, a cratered mess. Ruff went first, and he crashed pretty badly. His Wildcat flipped on him, but how he walked it off, I will never know. Nightmare, Hell, and I took off just fine, if a bit rough, with having to navigate the craters. Westing's plane, though, caught fire, but somehow he was thrown clear of the craft and barely scratched. I was just glad he was moving around, but I didn't expect to see him in the pagoda for a couple days. Baker wasn't so lucky, however, as his ammo caught fire and caused the aircraft to explode, killing him instantly. Chase hit a rock just the right way and flipped his craft, crashing it hard. I thought he would be dead, but somehow I saw him emerge. But I knew it would be a while before I saw him again. Knox skidded off, but I expect him to join us later. Thank you for the kind words, Thomas. Coming back to the report. After problems on the runway, we reconsolidated with Nightmare on my wing and Hell alone, with Knox expected to join up later. To my surprise, the intel was accurate, and we saw 12 Bettys and 9 Zeros coming at Henderson Field. We'd flown for a close-range interception, so the Bettys were alone when we arrived. We couldn't hit them, and they couldn't hit us. And as soon as we saw the Zeros, we turned for home knowing we didn't want to get swarmed. The Bettys followed us in, though, and managed to land a hit on the barracks. Fortunately, it only affected Forrest, who took a leg injury and looked like he was out for a few days. And now we're going to be switching, once I catch up with chat. And now I'm switching over to XO Ruff's perspective. I knew I'd be out for a couple days from this video, or from this injury, but as Phoenix's right-hand man, I wanted to see the landings as he did. Unfortunately, first to try to land was Phoenix. He hit one of the crater holes and flipped his aircraft. I could tell on the impact he wasn't going to come out of that breathing. Nightmare skidded around the crater hole in Phoenix's wreckage, but he managed to land otherwise. Hell and Knox also landed cleanly, but my concern was for Phoenix. I immediately went to his wreckage and saw Doc trying to pull him out. I knew, but I didn't want to know. I saw Phoenix was completely limp. Broken neck, Doc ended up saying, but I could hardly hear it in a daze. Phoenix cared about his troops, and now I knew I was in charge of the squadron. You make one quick clear up here? Okay, there we go. And now I knew I was in charge of the squadron. Not this way, though. I knew some of our other pilots had bought their promotions in blood as well, and they were always too dearly paid. We had to carry on, though. Fortunately, though, the rest of the day was quiet, with no more diseases. Pistol Pete, Washing Machine Charlie, and Night Infiltration were all quiet. The Imperial Japanese Navy scored a couple hits, though, taking out another Wildcat and knocking Fong out with a minor knee injury. Everything else was quiet, but we knew the Japanese had won this day. Tomorrow's another day, though, and there's still so much more to do. And that will do it for a very graphic couple of days in MAG-23 Guadalcanal. We'll probably have another game up on the channel later this afternoon. I haven't decided that yet. As for what else is scheduled on the channel, Wednesday we're playing U-Boat Leader from DVG, continuing with the Leader series. Saturday, Mystical Munchies will start out of the official Diablo cookbook with the appetizer, Bandit's Bacon Candy. Sunday next week, we're going to be starting the fall campaign for Astro Knights Eternity. And thank you for the kind words on writing really, really well. Have I ever considered writing a book? It is that good. I did try something briefly in college, but it probably wasn't a genre that that would have turned out well for me. But I never did anything with publishing it, and I probably won't now, just because, again, not a genre I do very well. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.